Hello everybody, welcome again to another episode with me, Blazy. I'm so excited to have you guys here. It's my pleasure to host you every week, at least a few times a week. I want to say, if you get a chance, if you're a new subscriber or if you're a new person in the video, please don't forget to like and share. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do us a favor and subscribe, and you'll end up getting these kind of videos time to time. Let's go fast forward. There's another crisis that is happening around, which is mostly happening to young men between the ages of 18 to 29. In 2019, it was 18 to 25, but just a few years after, it has increased. And after the pandemic, it even got worse. Many young men are more lonely and suffering compared to women who are the same age as them. I'll be very clear. This is not happening all over the planet, as the researchers have said. This is mostly happening in the United States. I'll just give a quick overview of what other people have found out according to their own research. I'll check here. So young men are facing a number of challenges, including mental health issues, substance abuse, and social isolation. And young men are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women. I'm sure this might happen outside the borders of America, but it's highly recognizable in the USA. Also, substance abuse. Young men are 3 times more likely to overdose than women. Also, in terms of social isolation, young men ages 18 to 30 spent nearly 20% more of their time alone. Education. Also, men graduate college at lower rates than women in every state in America. So in the United States, young men are more likely to drop out of university compared to their female friends. And in terms of incarceration or going to jail, young men are 14 times more likely to go to jail than women. And also in terms of violence, 98 or 99% of mass shooters are always men. Think about gang activity. At least 90% are male. So when you hear all these statistics, what comes into your mind? There's a problem that needs to be addressed. But because this is a male-dominated planet, or it has been, nobody pays attention. And this kind of topic came into my mind after the election that happened in the United States. So with Kamala, her agenda was mostly driven towards the rights of women. Few times maybe she mentioned something with men, but not as often. Maybe because she's a woman and she's championing for the rights of women. And you know, we almost had a woman president for the first time in history, which has never been. And on the other side of Mr. Trump's spot, there were like young men who are crying out loud. They're saying that they're being victimized for showing a sense of masculinity. And I can tell you, it's very common in the US these days. If you kind of show a sense of masculinity and orderliness, you're looked at as a misogynist. And I think people need to really go and check, what does misogyny mean? Because it's so easy to throw that word out there and make men feel like they're just trying to take over stuff time to time. I'm gonna check the definition of misogyny, so we just see what does it mean. So this means misogyny stands for hatred or prejudice against women, typically exhibited by men. Very simple, very straightforward. But why is it that at some point these days a man cannot do anything? I've had people many men being blamed for even just speaking out their minds. I'm not saying that there's some men who don't do these things out there, but I'll tell you, not all men do this. So I'm just here begging or pleading for the rights of these young men. I'm one of them included. I'm very lucky I haven't faced it directly, as Americans, many young Americans have. Maybe because my social skills are different, or maybe because I'm from another country and I wasn't able to kind of isolate myself for a long time. So I'm very outgoing. But I've seen so many men here who even their social skills is dead. They're even afraid of finding relationships, or they're even nervous. They don't like rejection. They don't like the idea that they can go and talk to a woman and the woman will tell them, no, I don't like you. I think that's part of life. But if you're afraid of everything, then that means you've been maybe pushed into the wall to the point where you can't even express yourself. I feel like self-expression should be mandatory to any human life. And before I continue, I have to remind you guys that women's rights is a fact. In so many parts of the planet, many women are suffering still, even in America here. But that doesn't mean that we can't talk about what men are going through. Another thing is, many boys or many men raised by single parents are at a greater risk of this kind of outcomes. So if you're a man, and most likely in the US, your parents divorce, you'll end up being raised by your mom or by your mother. And there's some things that, as an African, I'll tell you, maybe, I don't know American culture, but as an African, there's some things you can only learn from your father. And if your father was close to you, it's an added advantage. If it's only your mom, you become more emotional, I can say. Challenges become a little bit tricky on your side, because I don't want to sound like I'm being misogynistic if I say this, but many women are more emotional than men. That's just a fact. It's not something that we can debate about. Like, there's a high chance I've seen women cry faster than men, and the feminists kind of complain that, oh, make men cry too. I'm like, yeah, we can cry, but we're also providers and protectors of our houses, so it should be a choice. Don't force us to cry. But if you're raised by a single mother, there's a high chance that you will have it tough, unless your mom will really expose you to, let's say, other male-dominated spaces, or like male people who are like there for you, are like, let's say, your uncles or your neighbors who are like your role models. Also, single parenting is highly kind of practiced in the US. People don't like to take responsibilities. So this is my advice to men. If you think you want to have a family, think twice before you go for it. It's not walk in the park. Or if you don't want to have a family, do not make anybody pregnant. There's so many ways of of protecting yourself from that, because you just have to think, if you bring a life in this planet, you'll have to be responsible for another person's life until they die, not until they turn 18, which I hear in the US that, oh, when someone gets a baby, they're like, oh, I'll be responsible until when they turn 18. No, maybe for me, in my case, even when I'm 80 and if I have kids around, I have to be responsible, even if my kids are like 70 or 60 or something. So my plea to men is also try to be responsible. Don't make our women suffer so much, because now we're clashing and the whole community is suffering. The young kids are suffering. Our relationship is not about flowers and candy and chocolate. There's so more added into it than what you just see with your eyes. If you're a woman and you're watching this video, please don't feel attacked. This is just a man's space that we have to create, and people have to be okay with this. If you like this kind of videos, please don't forget to click subscribe, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Have a wonderful time. See you. Peace.